guys, Tori here from Overlook Horizon. Welcome back to another broadcast. It's Artemis Day. Artemis launch day. We've all been waiting for this for a long time. I am super pumped about this. Of course, breaking out the NASA shirt. Gotta get some love for the NASA shirt. But I'm ready to go. Whether the rocket is ready to go, we don't know. We're still kind of up in the air. They are progressing in the count this morning. They're working a couple of issues. We've got our T- countdown up here. It's really an L- countdown, not really a T- countdown, but most of the time, we don't even really notice the difference between the two, but for the Artemis mission, we will actually notice the difference between the two because they do have separate timelines for L- and T-. L- is like time to the actual launch itself. That's really what this is. And then T- is more of like a procedural clock that counts down for certain milestones that they hit. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's how much time there is until launch. That means that's how much time there is in their countdown process. So there'll be a little bit of confusion about T- and L-, but I'm just gonna, even though mine says T-, this is basically our estimated time to launch. Asterisks. With that being said, I'm expecting this to change because of the issues that we've had this morning. This is counting down to the opening of the launch window, and I would say there's a 99% chance that that's going to push out to a longer time at this point. So I'm going to say we have under 2 hours to launch. We probably don't. We have probably a little more than that. It's probably more like I'm gonna say at least 3 hours until launch, maybe even to the end of the launch window, if we can go at all. Because there's just a couple of issues that are being worked this morning with the rocket, and so we'll talk about what those are here in just a minute. So good morning to everybody. Let me know where you're watching from. If you're pumped for this, who's excited for it. I'm sure there's hopefully if you're here this early before launch, you're all excited for it, but I know there's a couple people that not so excited for SLS, but I'm excited. So anyways, let's say hello to a couple people, then we'll jump into what's happening here today. William over on Facebook's excited, lives about an hour and 20 minutes south and can see it all. Yeah, you probably see that for sure. Let's see. Laura over on Facebook, catching a launch for the first time in a couple months. His life has been insanely busy, so happy to be here for it. I know, same here, me as well. Let's see, who else is here? We'll check in on the YouTube chat and say hello to a couple people, then we'll move into what's happening here this morning. Let's see, a couple people talking about Dragon. No Dragon here today. We got the Orion capsule today. Wild West Dan, Alex Ziggyful, saw Time Waster, all our mods are here in the chat. Anita, of course. Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot the mod gift. I'm gonna have to get that at some point. The Tory bobblehead. We're gonna have to show that off at some point here today. The moderators and a couple of our regulars over on our Discord sent me a Tory bobblehead for my birthday. I forgot, it's in my other office, and it's in this building here, but just not in the room that I'm in right now. I'll have to show that off. Hey, and our good friend Marcus House is in the chat. Hey Marcus, good morning mate, hope you're well. Thanks for taking the time to cover this with us. Well, thanks for taking the time to drop in and say hello in the chat. I know everybody will be excited to see you here, so thanks Marcus. If you don't know Marcus has an amazing channel. I don't know how you don't know Marcus, but he has an amazing channel about space, and you should go check him out if you're not already subscribed. But I have a feeling that everybody here is subscribed to him because he's awesome, so you should all be subscribed already. All right, so let's talk about what's going on here. Time Waster says, we told you to get it and you still forgot it. Talking about the bobblehead. Yes, I did. I still forgot the bobblehead. It's upstairs. I'll grab it and we'll show it off here in a little while. We got some time here this morning. So anyways, look at this view here so far. Here's our SLS rocket with the Orion capsule up on top. It is looking gorgeous. That is a pretty amazing sunrise there at Cape Canaveral, launch pad 39B over at the Kennedy Space Center. So this is live right now. They have started fueling. So unlike SpaceX, where SpaceX kind of does the load and go procedure where they load the fuel in quote unquote last minute, within the last 40 minutes is when they load the rocket. SLS actually loads it hours ahead of time, and then they kind of top it off as we get closer to launch. But the majority of the fuel has already been loaded into the vehicle at this point. They are working a couple of issues this morning. Right, so we had early in the morning, things got a little bit of a late start because we had a lightning risk. So they need, in order to start fueling the vehicle, they need a less than 20% chance of lightning within the 5 miles that surround the launch pad. And they violated that constraint this morning. They had to wait for that to kind of dissipate. So they had a lightning risk this morning. They couldn't start fueling on time. So that was problem number one. Minor problem. All right, so that's no big deal. Then we had, let's see, we have currently, there's an open issue about communications between the ground teams and the Orion spacecraft. That seems like a relatively minor issue that hopefully they can resolve. They were just talking a little while ago about an issue with engine number 3. So they're trying to get the temperatures all to uniform levels here, and they said that temperature or engine number 3 was not cooperating with them. So they're working on an issue there. And then the biggest one that's not really what you want to hear is they said that there might be a crack on one of the intertank flanges. Exactly where that is, I don't know. But you never want to hear about a crack right before you're about to launch. So that's probably the biggest concern because that's not really an easy fix, right? So your engine's not at temperature. They can do some tricks to try to speed up the fuel. They were trying to speed up fuel flow or slow down fuel flow to get the temperatures within limits. There's a couple of tricks they can, try to mess around with some of the fueling procedures or bleeding procedures that can, try to troubleshoot issues like that. You got a crack on an intertank flange. Is that really anything you're going to be able to do about that? So they said a possible crack, right? Not confirmed. They're using kind of the engineering cameras to try to take a look at that. We have not seen any view of that, so we're not going to see what they're talking about. Maybe they'll show it to us, but I highly doubt that they will show us that. Yeah, that's kind of the number one issue at the moment, because that could be a real showstopper if that is indeed a crack, because that could be a long delay. I mean, we're talking like, if they got to go in and fix a crack, that's not a couple minute delay. That's a delay the mission out probably weeks type of delay. So hopefully it's nothing major. We'll see. Yeah, and a couple people talking about who would risk. Who's this? Somebody said who would risk the launch with a crack. Yeah, they're not gonna. I mean, if there's anything, they've been working on this for so long that if there's any possible indication that things would go wrong, even just a slight indication, they're not gonna launch. Right? This is just not gonna happen. We've waited this long, right? The SLS was initially supposed to launch in, I think, 2017. Here we are, 2022, or is it 2016 or 2017? Can't remember now. But, it was years ago, either way. And so here we are in 2022, and we're finally getting ready to launch, but if we gotta wait another couple of weeks or couple of months for them to fix some sort of crack, then You know, it is what it is. They're gonna do that. But let's not jump ahead of ourselves, right? Let's just think maybe it's just maybe it's just a little blip on the camera that you know, just looked like a crack, and they're just taking some extra precautions. Well, let's just wait and see what happens. So let's see, a couple channel members. Porta joined in as a rocket engineer. Welcome, Porta. Welcome to Space Lobster Nation family. And Lim, one of our channel members for 23 months. Thank you, Lim. Thank you for your support. Says, hi, Tori. Well, hello to you, Lim. Good morning. It's good morning for me. I'm not sure where you are, but... let's see. I did have... Hold on. I have too many things playing in my ears right now for audio. Let's see. We're gonna mute this one. Is that the one I'm hearing? It is the one I'm hearing. All right.
And the latest plan is to
just want to get an update here. See, because I've been talking so
close
long.
the pre-valves on engines 1, 2, and 4 and let the tank vent through the third engine. And so the pressure to the tank is coming down now. They're venting everything through 3, trying to get that bleed valve going.
So it sounds like they're still talking about their issue with engine number 3. That's still one of their open issues right now.
We are currently working a troubleshooting plan on the RS-25 engines with regards to an engine bleed, which is a requirement before the rocket can launch. This is on the core stage liquid hydrogen side. At 1:14 a.m. Eastern Time, launch director Charlie Blackwell Thompson gave the go for tanking. Both core stage tanks, liquid oxygen and hydrogen, were filled. Upper stage nearly filled. This coming after a roughly 45-minute weather delay. Once the tanking for the core stage was finished,
GM William Stewart.
Oh, jeez. Hold on. We're getting why did I get my new chat thing is reading out chats. We don't want that. There we go. All right, get rid of that. I don't want it to read.
Troubleshooting plans.
That scared me.
And we're paying attention closely to that process.
All right, so it doesn't. I was hoping we were gonna get a little bigger update, but so we're kind of just hanging out, waiting to see if they can resolve that engine number 3 issue. We're waiting to hear about that possible crack in the intertank flange. Just to give you an idea, let's talk about the timeline here for today and what the mission would be if we do launch in an hour and 40 minutes. Again, I don't expect to launch in an hour and 40 minutes. We've got a couple of issues. I expect at a minimum that we will delay until later in the launch window. We have a 2-hour launch window today, so we've got time. Right, it's not an instantaneous launch window, so if there are some issues, like we had a 45-minute weather delay earlier today, we can push later into the window, right? So I'm expecting, I would say, at least a 45-minute delay, if not longer than that, especially with this engine 3 issue that they're trying to work right now. I would say, we're probably talking like no less than an hour delay to our timeline, right? We got a 2-hour launch window, so we can go an hour delay. No big deal, that's all right. So we can go an hour delay, we can go up to 2 hours of a delay. So we'll see, we'll get an indication of when they're gonna move the launch to when we get into the planned hold, right? So the planned hold is in about an hour from now at the T-minus 40-minute timeline, right? So we've got the timeline up on the left side of your screen there. The next thing we're gonna get well, we might not get it on the actual broadcast, but NASA will do a briefing with the test director about if they're going to proceed or where they stand in the count. Not sure if they're going to share that with us, but there is a briefing at T-minus 50 minutes. Then we enter a planned hold. This is where there is basically a 30-minute discrepancy between if you're watching the NASA TV stream, you'll see that it's about 30 minutes ahead of my countdown. My countdown is technically the L- countdown. The T- countdown that NASA has, when it gets to, basically it's going to count all the way down to T-minus 10 minutes, and then it will pause intentionally. So there is a planned hold it's supposed to last about 30 minutes. It's a planned 30-minute hold. But that could be longer. They don't have to, they can wait pretty much as long as they want, as long as they can restart the count and still launch within the window. So that would be when we would expect to see a new launch time possibly announced, is during that planned hold period. So we've got about it's a little less than an hour from now when they enter that planned hold, and then we'll find out what kind of time implications we're going to see with some of the delays and issues that we've had this morning. So we're gonna wait and see an update on that. Assuming, let's say everything goes according to plan, they would restart the count at about T-minus 10 minutes. Then we're gonna count all the way down to launch. Right? Let's talk about what the actual. That's not what we want. It's out of here. I want this back over here on this screen. Let's talk about, where's my timeline? Timeline. I have it here somewhere. There it is. Okay. Let's put that on the screen so you can see this. All right, so here's our Artemis mission press kit. Right, here's our nice little animation there. We can see the Artemis, the SLS rocket, the Orion capsule, the ICPS, and then off to the moon, right? So this is a test flight today, right? Uncrewed. There's no people on board. We do have 3 test dummies on board, right? One that is a full mannequin, or I think it's called Moonikin. I forget what the last name is, but we have one full dummy that is on board, that is in a full space suit that the astronauts would wear. It's got tons of sensors on it, and it will be kind of measuring what astronauts would experience during the launch. And then they also have 2 torsos, just torsos, not full bodies, but they have 2 torsos that are simulating radiation, or trying to measure radiation exposure, specifically in female astronauts, right? So female astronauts apparently is more prone to radiation exposure than male astronauts are, because female astronauts have more organs that are susceptible to radiation exposure. So the 2 torsos are measuring radiation exposure primarily. One of them has a protective vest on, the other one does not, and they'll kind of measure the difference. Those torsos are actually made up of materials that very closely simulate the human body, right? So skin, lungs, all the human tissue. It's supposed to simulate that very, very close to what human flesh or material or tissue would experience, how it would react to radiation, or at least protect it, interior organs, things like that, from radiation. So anyways, there are 3 test dummies on board that will be flying on this mission. 1 full and 2 torsos. All right, so our timeline and our mission here, we've got the countdown timeline, which we kind of talked about. So the countdown timeline starts well in advance. The actual fueling starts a few hours prior to launch. It's a lot closer to like the space shuttle days, not like what SpaceX does with the load and go right before launch. We count it all the way down, we get to T0. Then we've got our actual mission timeline itself. So we'll bring this up here. We'll even hide our little timeline here, just to give you an idea of what it's gonna look like here. So we'll get launch, tower clear, max Q. It's kind of just like any other rocket launch. Then we get booster separation, right? There are 2 solid rocket boosters on the sides. Those will come splash down into the ocean. We'll get the launch abort system, the tower, will jettison off the front of the Orion capsule, the nose there. There's a little shroud and tower at the top of the rocket that's used for launch abort. That will jettison away. That's about 3.5 minutes after launch. I'm gonna sneeze here in just a minute. I'm trying to talk through it. You know when you get that feeling in your nose that you're like, oh man, I got a sneeze coming, but it just won't. It's not happening. I'm trying to talk through it. Anyways, continuing on, the core stage will then separate about just under 8.5 minutes into launch. That will come splash down into the ocean. Remember, this is not a reusable rocket, right? We're all kind of, a lot of people used to watching SpaceX and the whole reusable rocket thing. That's not gonna happen here. None of this is reusable. The engines, the RS-25 engines, are reused. They were previously used on the space shuttle, so they are being reused today, but will not be reused after this. They will be destroyed because the core stage is not recoverable. It will splash down in the ocean just under 2 hours after launch and will be destroyed. Then we get the core stage and the ICPS that will do kind of an orbital perigee raise burn maneuver, and then that's going to actually, the ICPS is on the back of, it's kind of like the interstage there. I forget what the ICPS actually stands for. It is the interim cryogenic propulsion stage. That is going to do the actual TLI burn, the translunar injection burn. Then that will separate from the Orion capsule and the service module, and that will continue on to the moon, right? So that's what the mission is we're heading to the moon. And let's see, how do I get back? How do I get out of here? I'm gonna get back to my timeline. I don't know how to get back. Get back. Exit full screen? No, don't want to do that. Back. Go back. Well, can I do that? Ah, yes, there we go. So then we got about 2 to 5 days of transit from, or not 2 to 5 days, from day 2 through day 5 of transit to the moon. I was like, that's a long time. That's a long range, 2 to 5 days. No, it's about 5 days of transit to the moon, but from days 2 through day 5, it'll be transiting to the moon. It will enter a retrograde orbit around the moon. It's going to spend a little bit of time out there. It's going to return back to Earth and splash down about 43 days after launch. So this is going to be up there for a really long time, especially when you consider, you compare it to like the Apollo missions that really lasted like, what, 8 to 12 days, somewhere in that range. This is going to be 43 days that it's going to be out there and coming back and returning. So it's a much longer mission timeline than the Apollo missions. And this is where you probably get a lot of conspiracy people, especially when you start talking about the radiation measurements. You know, a lot of people that don't believe that we went to the moon, they think, well, wow, there's no way humans could get through the radiation of space to get there. And I mean, there is radiation in space, right? So that's definitely a risk, but the way we did it before was to travel really fast through the thinnest parts, especially of the Van Allen belts. We would go real fast, go through the thin parts, and kind of just cross our fingers and say, like, here we go. Hope nothing bad happens. And then we would just see what happened when they came back. And really, it wasn't that big of a deal. But they were also only in space for 8 to 12 days. Not a huge deal. I mean, we're talking about when this return to the moon here, we're talking about longer duration stuff where we could set up a moon base and we could have astronauts that actually live there. You know, now we have all this experience spending time at the International Space Station where humans are sitting in space for 6 months or longer, and you know, now we can potentially plan for that for the moon environment as well. So some of these radiation gathering techniques are not necessarily to say that we didn't go back in the day. It's just measuring, you know, could we do it better? Like, there's no reason why we have to do it the same way and just kind of cross our fingers and be like, well, I hope it works. I mean, no, now we have materials and technology, and we can, you know, try to protect ourselves against that. This is also the most powerful rocket that we've ever launched here from the US. And so this is, we've got potential to carry a lot more things that we can bring with us to the moon. Not that a radiation vest is that much heavier, but you know, weight is a concern. You can't just bring whatever you want. You gotta kind of decide what you're bringing and what you're not bringing. So that's the mission plan here for today. Circles don't exist. That's an interesting conspiracy theory. What about those who say the moon isn't solid? There are a lot of conspiracy theories out there, that's for sure. Will it be possible to keep the cameras rolling while crossing the Van Halen zone? The Van Halen zone? That's a different zone. Yeah, so there's a ton of cameras on board the SLS and the Orion. There are particularly engineering cameras that are on the solar array wing. That's the kind of the X-patterned solar panels that will come out from the Orion capsule once it's in orbit. And there are cameras that are on that, and that they're expecting those to work throughout the mission. So I'm sure that they've considered the radiation potential of that. Remember, radiation can affect people, but it can also affect equipment, right? So there are kind of two ways that you can go about protecting yourself from radiation equipment failures. There is kind of the typical way that we had done in the past, especially with like space shuttle and things like that, was to build radiation hardened equipment that was really expensive, but it would protect itself from radiation, and they built special equipment for that. The other option, which is kind of like what SpaceX is doing with their Falcon 9 rocket, is they're just using regular generic equipment. They're just using redundant systems, right? So the Falcon 9 has like 3 onboard computer systems. And what radiation exposure to a computer system can cause what's called a bit flip, where basically you've got something stored in memory, and radiation hits that spot in the memory and can cause bits to change. Basically, it changes the data that all of a sudden the system's like, oh, okay, I'm storing something different now for you. You're welcome. That's not really good. But generally, it's not going to affect the entire vehicle at once. It just hits like little tiny spots. So if you get a bit flip on radiation, the other 2 computer systems look at that outlier and go, hey, I think you're wrong. So why don't you reboot yourself and start over again? And we'll take over in the meantime. And so the other 2 computers fly the vehicle until the 3rd computer reboots itself and comes back up and goes, oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I'm back to normal now. So that's kind of the few ways that you could do it. There are a ton of cameras on board the vehicle that we've got redundancy capability. I don't know if they've done any radiation hardening for the actual cameras, but we've certainly got plenty of cameras on board. So we've got the redundant possibility covered. Let's see. How long after liftoff does it take to get into space and out of gravitational pull? So the answer to your question, this is Mark over on Facebook. How long does it take to get out of gravitational pull? The answer is a little more complicated than that because you don't actually get out of gravitational pull, right? So a lot of people think of space like you break free from Earth, and once you're a certain distance away from Earth, then all of a sudden you don't have that gravitational pull anymore, and you'll just float. Which is kind of true, but the distance you have to travel is like way farther than this mission is going. So we're not actually leaving Earth's gravitational pull. What we're doing is we're traveling horizontally so fast that Earth's gravitational pull can't pull us back to Earth faster than we can outrun the curvature of the Earth, right? So this is an important concept in space travel, right? So if you were to just go up, no horizontal travel, you just go up and you get to the distance, the altitude that this mission will initially park at, and you just shut off the engines, you're coming back down. You're going to come back to Earth. You have not left Earth's gravitational pull. You will go up, and eventually your vehicle will stop, and it will come right back down. And so, that was a little bit freaky. It looked like the vehicle was lifting off there. They're just moving the camera. So, yeah, the most important thing for the orbital dynamics that we're talking about here is not the up portion, it's the horizontal portion, right? So we want speed. We want horizontal speed so that we can outrun the pull of gravity. If we can go horizontally faster than the Earth can pull us back, we can outrun the curvature of the Earth, and it will pull us back, and we'll just keep falling, but keep missing the Earth. I hope that makes sense. Let's see. What do you know about the so-called Kármán line? Is the moon behind it? So the Kármán line is just kind of an imaginary, made-up delineation of where space begins. In reality, like, there is a very gradual change from atmospheric conditions to outer space conditions. And so there really there's no, like, specific demarcation point that naturally occurs. So we've kind of just universally come up with the so-called Kármán line and said, like, you know what, this is the point that we're going to say space begins. And the theory behind that really is that that's the point at which you can't use traditional like airplane type engines. You can't use jet engines or any vehicle that relies on atmosphere to generate lift above the Kármán line. There's just not enough atmosphere left to generate lift or generate thrust with jet engines or propeller engine. Not that you could really get a propeller engine that high, but so above the point of the Kármán line, really that's the point at which we say, like, all right, at this point the only way you're going to keep flying is with a rocket engine. So
on the inlet side of the core stage tank,
heard something about a leak. Oh,
engineers took troubleshooting measures and managed to clear that.
Okay, that was the leak. There was a leak earlier that they thought they detected.
And they continued with tanking, getting both tanks to replenish. Stand by.
Stand by. Okay. Let's see. So we've been talking for a little while. Let's see if we can get an update on where we stand. Let's see if... All right, so it looks like potentially the issues getting engine number 3 down to temperature.
The, team give an update.
Looks like the engine number 3 temperature issues might be resolved, which is good. I have not heard anything. Haven't seen anything about the crack issue.
After the engine leak was, the hydrogen leak was resolved. The team ran the engine bleed on the hydrogen side to get those engines conditioned for launch. And then they ran into another issue. There are 4 RS-25 engines at the bottom of the core stage. All 4 of them bleed out liquid hydrogen when the launch team commands it, as well as liquid oxygen. And that conditions the main propulsion system, along with all the plumbing inside, and gets it ready for launch. Stand by.
All right, I wanted to check to see if we've got any major updates here. I have not seen anything about the crack issue. The crack sounds so wrong. That's not. It's early in the morning. Let's see. NASA broadcast is late. Yeah, so the NASA broadcast, I think, has been delayed, and that is intentional because
so
they are expecting the
moment,
launch to be delayed. That's all right. You just hang out with me for a little while.
is the hydrogen team is working on a troubleshooting plan.
This is currently.
And I'm listening to them now.
All right. So sounds like we've still got a troubleshooting issue with hydrogen. So earlier today, there was an issue with what they thought was a hydrogen leak at the base of the vehicle near one of the umbilicals.
Hydrogen team discussing the situation with the launch director at this very moment. Stand by.
So I'm expecting he's doing pretty much exactly the same that I'm doing, is trying to talk to us, and he's also listening to the countdown loops, which they don't share with us. So we're working on seeing. I have not. I guess I'm not sure what this leak is that they're referring to right now, because I know, like I said, we had the leak issue earlier in the countdown that they thought was a leak, but they were able to resolve it. They had detected hydrogen. They have some hydrogen detectors in the area. They detected an elevated region of hydrogen that said like there was a 1.8% concentration, and the limit to kind of stop things is 4%, right? So they got up to 1.8%. They were detecting hydrogen levels that were higher than they wanted them to be, but not out of control. So they thought maybe they had a small leak. I didn't hear exactly what they did to resolve it, but they did say that they resolved the issue and they continued fueling. So they didn't really. I thought that was kind of the end of it, but we might still have that same issue going around. So, yeah, and West 333 says it only takes 4% to be explosive. Yeah, so I don't know if that's exactly the percentage that. I'll believe that. That's where their limit is 4%. But that's the theory, basically, is if you get a high percentage of hydrogen in a particular area, that's where things go boom boom. And we don't want that, or could potentially if you have an ignition source. So we don't want that at all. Let's see. Game Now Room wants to know, what are the countdown loops? So the countdown loops that I was talking about, that's basically like the communication channels between all the controllers. So they have a bunch of what they call loops. They're communication loops. They're basically like communication networks. It's like talking on a handheld radio or walkie-talkie, and having different channels. They have different communication loops as part of the countdown controllers. We rarely get access to. I should say rarely. We never get access to all the communication channels, right? So they have tons of communication channels that they're communicating with. Occasionally, we get some of the communication loops where we'll hear, like during the SpaceX mission launches, we can actually hear mission controllers communicate with each other, where they'll call out different stages of things. Usually that's done on a specific loop that they make public. They have tons of other, you have internal loops where the team will all communicate with each other. They have a loop, communication channel that they'll talk with, like the test director. They have front end controllers that'll talk to back room controllers. So they have so many ways to communicate with each other. And they'll have like NASA has, which is who we're hearing. They have like a public relations person that kind of relays information. That person has access to much more they have kind of raw access to at least a portion of the communication loops, and they will relay that to us. They rarely give us direct access, especially on some of these more detailed things, but sometimes closer to launch we'll get access to at least some of those communications. But at this point we don't have anything. Let's see. What else do we have going on? Any more delays? What a surprise! Yeah, I know it is frustrating that there's been a lot of delays, but a delay is certainly better than having something go wrong. That is definitely not what we want. We don't want anything to go wrong, because that would mean a huge delay if something went wrong. And we want everything to go correctly the first time. I mean, even if it took us another month or 3 months and it went correctly the first time, that's great, because that means that we can proceed on with Artemis II and Artemis III and be relatively on the timeline. That's relatively speaking. If something went wrong, I mean, Artemis II and Artemis III are going to be pushed out years. We don't want
Artemis launch control at T-minus 41 minutes and 14 seconds. The countdown clock is slated to hold at T-minus 40 minutes and counting. Again, the clock is going to hold at T-minus 40 minutes, so just 60 seconds from now, you'll see that clock stop. And at that time, the hydrogen team is going to discuss their plan with the launch director. They're still working on it. They're asking for 10 minutes, and then they will brief the launch director Charlie Blackwell Thompson.
Okay, so we're gonna have a hold. It sounds like this is not. I don't believe this is the planned hold. Or is it? That is not what I expected the planned hold to be, but let me just check real quick. Let me see. Did I? Maybe I misread.
3, 2, 1, mark.
So let me just check. Did I misread? I did misread it. So, no, L minus, no, I did not misread it. It's L minus 40 minutes. We're currently L minus an hour and 10 minutes. So the planned 30-minute hold was supposed to be L minus 40 minutes, not T minus 40 minutes. So the countdown that they're talking about right now, the 40-minute timeline, that is the T minus time, not the L minus time. Very confusing. L minus is the actual time until launch. T minus is a procedural count up until launch that basically corresponds to all the activities and things that they will do leading up until launch. Eventually, when you get down with under 10 minutes, L minus and T minus are the same. But leading up to that, L minus and T minus potentially may not be the same. On some launch vehicles, like SpaceX's launch vehicle, counting down to launch, L minus and T minus, they pretty much do the exact same thing. But that's because SpaceX doesn't have any planned holds. So usually when you see a difference between L minus and T minus is when there is a planned holding period, right? So L minus will continue to count during the planned hold, where T minus will stop during the planned hold and eventually pick back up again. So if you have like a 30-minute plan, this particularly for today, there was a 30-minute planned hold at L minus 40 minutes. So the L minus time the T minus time would actually say T minus 10 minutes, and it would stop the L minus time would say L minus 40 minutes and would keep running for 30 minutes. And then with 10 minutes left, the T minus countdown would continue counting, and then they would both count down the same until 0. It's confusing, I know, but so right now it sounds like this is an unplanned hold for a hydrogen issue that I'm not 100% aware of. Although some people are saying this is a planned hold at T minus. See, I'm very confused on whether or not this is a planned hold or not. Because let me take you back to the count, right? So the planned hold, according to the press kit, the planned hold was L minus 40 minutes.
This is Artemis Launch Control. We're currently standing by at T minus 40 minutes and holding.
We are not at L minus
tanks
40 minutes.
And replenish both at the bottom and the top of the rocket. You can see there the venting of liquid oxygen, which goes to gaseous oxygen. The team is currently discussing a troubleshooting plan.
He got very quiet all of a sudden.
Sit in the hold. The liquid hydrogen upper stage is in stop flow, as is the liquid hydrogen tank in the core stage. If you're just joining us, we're in a hold after an engine bleed caused a stop at the countdown. The engine bleed failing to reach the proper temperature in sync with the other 4 engines. It's a function of pressure. The team pressurized the tank just about 45 minutes ago, drew an engine bleed, and were unable to get a temperature on the 3rd engine, which is in the back right corner. They're unable to get an even temperature across all 4 engines. So that engine number 3 is what they're currently troubleshooting.
Okay, so this is...
Engineers are asking for a little more time to get back with the launch director on a go-forward plan. We're standing by for that.
Okay, so yeah, this definitely sounds like an unplanned hold to me, because as Mike pointed out over on Facebook, they did say they wanted 10 minutes of time. It sounds like this is an unplanned hold, not the planned L minus 40 minutes hold, 40-minute hold, because we're not at L minus 40 minutes yet. And so the engineers just wanted some more time to figure out the issue with that engine number 3. So they were having some troubles with engine number 3, not being able to get it down to temperature to match the other 3 engines, right? So you have to chill down these engines, right? We're putting super cooled liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen that are going to be flowing through these engines. You have to chill them down ahead of time and make sure that you're not going to shock the system when you go to flow that super cold liquid through there during ignition, right? You're going to get a ton of very cold liquid going through there all at once. And if you just go from 80 degree or 90 degree temperatures in Florida, this is Fahrenheit that I'm talking to, you have to convert to Celsius on your own. And all of a sudden you throw in negative 300 degree liquid, things will break. So we got to make sure that the engines are at the proper temperatures to support that cold liquid. But they're having trouble with engine number 3. And it sounds like they need a little bit of a hold. They were trying some tricks to try to get that temperature to come down, but it sounds like we need a little more time. So everything they've tried so far it's not working. So now we wait. Why is NASA pushing their live further out? So the main reason is going to be we're not expecting to launch on time, right? The launch was scheduled to be an hour from now. We have not heard of a new launch time, but we are not expecting to launch on time. And that is just because of some of the issues we've had this morning. We had a 45-minute weather delay that started the day off. Then we've had a couple of working issues. We had a communications issue that they're working. We've got this engine number 3 issue. We had a hydrogen leak that they seem to have resolved. And we've also got this the inter-tank flange crack issue that I have not heard anything about since like an hour ago. So yeah, we're still waiting to see if they can resolve all those issues. Some of them they have. Obviously, the weather delay, that's resolved. The hydrogen leak, they said they have resolved that as well. So really the 3 issues I think that I'm aware of, and feel free to jump in and let me know if you're aware of any. It's hard to broadcast and keep up to date with what's happening, but the 3 issues that I'm aware of that they're tracking at the moment is a communication issue between ground controllers and the Orion capsule. That one may be resolved because that's a pretty minor issue, and they might not say if they resolve it or not publicly. So they were tracking a communications issue, but then the 2 bigger issues are this engine number 3 temperature issue. They can't get it down to temperature, and the intertank flange crack they're pushing forward, so seems like maybe it's not an issue, but I don't know, anytime you say you found a crack, that's not what you want to hear. So I haven't heard more on that though. Let's see. Why are there no people on board? Yeah, so this is the first time this vehicle is ever launched. This is the most powerful vehicle that we've ever launched in the US. The only thing more powerful than this will be Starship at some point, and also the Russian N1 rocket. But this is one of the most powerful rockets ever built. It's never launched before. I don't know about you, but I'm not signing up to jump on that rocket on the first go. I'm sure there would be people that would do it. I mean, but they want to test it first, right? So they've done a bunch of ground tests, but there's a lot of things that you really can't test until you do it. And one of the primary things that they're testing here on this mission today, right? This is going to be kind of a full mission. They're going to launch, go into orbit. They're going to head out into distant retrograde orbit around the moon. They're going to come back. And then one of the primary things they need to test on this particular mission is re-entry, right? That's really hard to test on the ground, is the re-entry procedure. So they need to test that heat shield, the re-entry procedures, keeping the attitude oriented correctly for the vehicle as it comes back into Earth's atmosphere. So that's one of the big things that they have to test on this
launch control.
But they really haven't tested that. I mean, they've only tested bits and pieces.
On the previous issue, we're holding at T-minus 40 minutes. You may recall, if you've been with us for the past hour, that there was a line of ice that had formed on the intertank.
Yep, that was the crack.
On the exterior of the core stage, where there is a flange.
That was the crack issue.
Engineers have taken a long look at that and have come up with a conclusion. They say that that ice formed along a line. That ice that formed is essentially air that's being chilled by the tank that gets trapped inside of a crack in the foam, but not the actual tank.
Okay.
So ambient air is basically cryopumped into this crevice in the thermal protection system, which that butterscotch colored thermal protection that you see there is sprayed on, and especially at that seam where you see the intertank between where it starts to go into a cone. In that area, they've had trouble in the past where it's just a stress crack in the foam. And they know this because they can see the offset. If it were a structural crack, one side would be coming out farther than the other. They don't see that. So essentially, to the untrained eye, it can look like a crack, but what it actually is, according to the engineers, is air is being sucked in, chilled, and then comes right back out of that foam as vapor. It appears like it looks like something is leaking when in fact it's not.
Okay, so that's good news.
And they have a history of this going back to the space shuttle era, which had an external tank with super chilled propellants in it.
All right,
They call it cryopumping. Air gets in the void because of the cold temps, gets super chilled, and then vents out.
All right. So that's good news, actually. So that's the first kind of update that we've heard from the intertank.
In the meantime, we're awaiting the hydrogen team's plan to go forward and update to the launch director. Standing by for that. We'll have that as soon as they give it. This is Artemis Launch Control.
Okay, so that's good. That's good news. That's our update on the crack issue. It sounds like that is a non-issue. That's good. That's good news. We wanted to get away from that. So they thought that they had a leak, they thought there was a possibility of a leak. They were going to look at it very carefully. It turns out that it's just a leak in the thermal protection system. So it's basically the orange coating that's around the tank system, right? That's all just insulating foam that's around those tanks for temperature purposes. So remember, we talked about these are super cooled liquid oxygen, liquid helium liquid hydrogen rather, that's being loaded into the vehicle. SpaceX's vehicle does not have that foam wrapped around the tank, and that's one of the reasons why SpaceX does the load and go procedure, right? They load all those liquids into the vehicle. They do it within the 30 to 40 minutes prior to launch, and then they can basically just, when it gets down to zero, they just light the candle and go. And that prevents, because they do it that close to launch, it prevents the liquid from warming up too much where it boils off, and now they don't have enough, now it overpressurizes, or they have to vent it, and now they don't have as much fuel and oxygen as they need. They do it so close to launch that they can basically just launch it right away, and they don't need that insulating foam. This vehicle starts loading that propellant and liquid oxygen hours in advance, right? It's much more similar to like the space shuttle. They do it hours in advance, but because they do it so far in advance, they have to insulate the tanks, right? They don't want it to heat up too much and have it boil off. So the tanks are insulated to prevent that. So you've got the thermal protection system there. It sounds like there's a little bit of a crack in the foam. It's not a huge issue, right? The core stage doesn't have to, it's not a heat shield, right? It doesn't have to protect against re-entry or anything like that. But they, sounds like they've got a little bit of a crack there, but it's not a crack in the actual tank itself. And so they're it sounds like they're going to continue on and proceed just fine with that crack. So really, that brings us down to the one main issue that we have right now, which is what we're holding for, and that is the engine number 3 temperature issue. So they can't get engine number 3 down to the proper temperature. So we're in a hold right now. It was supposed to be a 10-minute hold, or at least 10 minutes until we got an update. It's been longer than 10 minutes. So we're kind of just awaiting news on that. So this is an unplanned hold. At least that's my understanding right now. Confusingly, there is a planned hold at L-40 minutes. We are at T-40 minutes and holding. Slightly different. We were counting down to an 8:33 a.m. Eastern Time launch, 12:33 UTC. So we were counting down to there. We very much, and I say I and a lot of people are very much expecting them to not launch at 8:33 because of some of the issues and delays we've had this morning, but we do have a 2-hour launch window, so they've got plenty of time to delay the launch and still be able to get it off in time. The launch window opens at 8:33, it closes at 10:33, 10:30. 10:30 something. I think it's 10:33. So it's a 2-hour launch window, and we have not yet heard of a new launch time, a new T0, but we were expecting to get that information during the planned L-40 minute hold, and we'll see what happens from there. So that's where we stand here right now. Rolfcopter says, "Bro, I can't wait 2 hours. Just press the launch button now." I know, everybody's excited. We got to kind of just hold it together. Everybody's pumped. We've been waiting for this for a long time. We want to see it go, but we don't want to rush things, right? We don't want to make things go faster than we're ready for. I know we're all ready, but we want to make sure the rocket is ready too. So yeah, just to recap, because a lot of people asking why the countdown is stopped, why we're in a hold. The main reason that we're in that hold right now is due to the engine number 3. They cannot get it down to the proper temperature. And so engineers wanted some extra time to make a plan to try to see if they can recover it and push forward. So that's what we're holding for. JMB Gator over on Twitch says, so sounds like good news regarding the crack and other issues, ? Yeah, good news regarding the crack. That's a non-issue. And then the other issues, there are only 2 others that I know of that are outstanding. We've got the engine number 3 issue, which is what we're holding for right now. And then we've got the other main issue is, or it's not really a main issue, it's a minor issue, was a communication issue between ground controllers and the Orion capsule. I have not heard anything about that since like hours ago, so that could be resolved at this point. But it's kind of a minor issue that they may not even say anything more about that. So I guess I'm considering that we're working one issue at this time, which is the engine number 3 temperature issue. I should mention, I just saw that Bruce sent over some Facebook stars. Thank you very much, Bruce. I appreciate the support on that. I also should mention somebody else sent over a super chat. I think it was Mike Awesome. Told me a happy not birthday. We're back to that as a recurring theme. So thank you, Mike Awesome, for the super chat. I appreciate your support there, and thanks for the not birthday wishes. It's not my birthday, for anybody confused about that, but thank you for that. Let's see, Marcus House, the one and only. How long can they hold today? So because we have a 2-hour launch window, we can hold for up to the, well, let's see. Yeah, so we can hold for up to 2 hours. But one of the confusing things, let's see, I gotta see if I can do this in my head. Because there is a planned hold, right? So they do still have a 30-minute planned hold. And I'm under the impression that the hold that we're in now is not the planned hold, because the planned hold is L-40 minutes. We're not at L-, well, we're almost at L-40 minutes, but we're not at L-40 minutes yet. So I don't believe this is the planned hold. I'm expecting an L-40 minute planned hold to occur, and that's what it says on the. That's what it said. L-40 minutes. Built-in 30-minute countdown hold begins at L-40 minutes. So we're not even at L-40 minutes yet, and we're holding. So I believe there will be another 30-minute hold, but that's okay. That's a plan. The planned holds are no big deal, because the L- counter will continue to count during a planned hold. So that's not a big deal, even though it sounds like we're delaying it. A planned hold is not a delay. That's an expected thing, and it doesn't change our expected launch time. An unplanned hold, which is what I believe we're in now, does change our expected launch time. They could, during the planned hold, they could change our expected launch time. That's a different issue. But yeah, so we have a 2-hour launch window today. I was hoping they were going to show whether that 40 minutes is T minus or L minus, but it's got to be T minus. All right, let's see. So Michael's doubtful. He says it's not going today. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't go today, right? This is the first time this is launched. This is our first attempt at actually going for it. So I wouldn't be surprised if it does not launch today. I'm still hopeful that it will, but if it doesn't, then it is what it is. We got some more launch opportunities, and we'll see if we can push forward. My biggest concern was that interstage flange crack, because that sounded like that could be a big repair issue. But that appears to be a non-issue, so that's great news. So now it's just the engine number 3 temperature issue. That could mean the end of today. We're still waiting for an update on that. So that could mean that we don't launch today if they can't figure that out. But it could also mean that it's just a slight delay. Maybe they got to replace a valve, figure something out. Could be, just a day delay, till a couple days delay. We could still be not too far out. But we'll have to see. When, here we go, Pascal 1975 has a great question. When can we expect humans going to the moon again? So the plan is, right, and this is all kind of with an asterisk because the SLS program is unfortunately known for delays. But the plan is that if Artemis I goes according to plan, then Artemis II would launch in 2024. That would have a crew on board, but they would not land on the moon. They'd go out, kind of a similar mission to this. They'd go out to the moon, they'd do a couple of laps, have a nice wave, come back, land. And then Artemis III would be the first human landing on the moon again after, what do we have? What is it, like 60 years of delay with nobody landing on the moon. So we're going to be, Artemis 3 will be the first opportunity for that, and that would be 2025. So that is the plan right now. Artemis 2, 2024, Artemis 3, 2025. So hopefully we can stay on track for that. Wondering why they're holding the launch. Yep, so our current hold right now is due to an engine number 3 temperature issue. They're trying to bring down the temperature in engine number 3. Engines 1, 2, and 4. This is on the core stage, those main RS-25 engines that are reused from the space shuttle. The engine number 3 is not playing nice this morning, so they're trying to get that down to temperature. It is not cooperating. But they are, so that's what the hold is for right now. We've not heard an update in quite a while. They said they needed 10 minutes to decide. That was about 25 minutes ago. So, we're waiting. We've got, again, plenty of time. We've got 2 hours today that we can wait it out. So we've only been holding for about 25 minutes, so we're not a big deal right now. Didn't they check it before today? Yeah, see, there are so many moving parts, moving parts that non-moving parts. There's so many things that can go wrong during the lead up to a launch, and only one way that they can go right. So it's, you test things a whole bunch of times. You get a whole bunch of redundancy. I mean, that's why you have these countdown procedures, is to catch issues like this before you actually launch. But yeah, at the end of the day, there are millions of ways that things can go wrong, and only one way that they can go right. So yeah, of course they've tested this a ton of times, but they got an issue today. It's not necessarily unheard of, right?
This is Artemis launch control. We are currently in an unplanned hold at T-minus 40 minutes.
Unplanned hold. Thank you for confirming. I just wanted to verify this was
for the launch of Artemis I from Launch Complex 39B at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. We are awaiting an update from the launch director after she consults with the cryo team on the hydrogen side. They have an issue with one of the 4 engines in the core stage. She's awaiting a troubleshooting plan and a way forward. Engineers are currently discussing that plan at this very moment. The engineers telling the launch director they hope to have a discussion with her shortly, in the next 10 minutes possibly. We're standing by for that. Artemis Launch Control.
Okay, so we got another 10 minutes that we're waiting for an engineering update from the cryo team on trying to get that engine number 3 down to temperature. So that's what we're in the hold for right now. JMB Gator, is the SLS and SpaceX Starship competing for the same purpose, or do they have different purposes? Yeah, I would say yes and no. They're not really competing. Remember, Starship is actually going to be part of the Artemis program. So the lunar Starship has been awarded the lunar lander portion of the Artemis program, right? So they're going to the Orion capsule will meet up with the lunar Starship in lunar orbit, and that's what's going to take the astronauts down to the lunar surface. So they're kind of working together. I mean, SpaceX may also send starships to the moon themselves. Maybe for private missions. Maybe who knows what's going to happen in the future. Maybe NASA decides that they're just going to launch on Starship. We don't know. But as of right now, like the plan they're pushing forward on, right, in the absence of a replacement, Starship is not at this point yet, right? So Starship is not as ready as SLS is, but they're continuing on this plan, which is to launch astronauts on the SLS with the Orion capsule, send them to lunar orbit, meet up with a lander there, use the Starship lunar lander to land astronauts on the surface of the moon. So they're working together. And at the end of the day, it would be nice to have more than one option to get to the moon. That way, if something goes wrong, same idea with sending astronauts to the space station. That's why we have the Crew Dragon and the Boeing Starliner. Once that becomes operational, we will have 2 options to get astronauts to low Earth orbit. It would be great to have 2 astronauts to get, or 2 options to get astronauts to the moon as well. That way, if something goes wrong, we can keep sending astronauts to the moon. Let's see. Will we have an HD live stream of the astronauts as they land and explore the moon to end the hoax theories? I'm sure that we will have much better camera capabilities here now in 2022 compared to 1969. There are a ton of cameras that are on the Orion capsule and the SLS rocket right now. There will be cameras. That is for sure. Much better cameras than what we had way back in the day. So I'm sure we will get much better footage once we get to that point. We just got to get there. So good question from HH, and thank you very much for the super chat as well. Tori, isn't this rocket just a Franken shuttle? I guess kind of. It's kind of the. It's kind of a combination of like the Apollo era and the shuttle era, right? So we've got the capsule system from like the shuttle or the Apollo era, but we've also got the core stage boosters and engines that are kind of from the space shuttle days, right? So yeah, it is kind of a combination, but I don't know. There's only so many ways that we know of to build rockets. Obviously, Starship is a radically different concept altogether, being that it's reusable. But prior to SpaceX reusing rockets, that was just not a consideration. Before SpaceX demonstrated that that was possible. There were a lot of people that were in the space industry that were like, it's not even possible. Like, why are you even trying? It's not possible to reuse rockets. And so this is kind of, I mean, if you were of that mindset and you're kind of just, this is the solution that we have. And it's not, I mean, yes, not reusing rockets is certainly expensive, more expensive, but the nice thing is you don't have to build in recovery systems, and you don't have to use fuel for recovery. You can use all of your available fuel for getting to orbit and getting to the moon. You don't have to use any fuel for recovery purposes. So there are some benefits, right? And even SpaceX, which has reusable vehicles, if you look at something like the Falcon Heavy, for example, they have configurations where they can launch a payload and have a customer pay for an expendable launch, right? So even though SpaceX reuses their all their core stages for the most part, they can actually service a mission for a customer that has a need for an expendable launch, and in that case, they could possibly get a heavier payload to orbit, or get it to a bigger or a higher orbit. If they expend, like if it's Falcon Heavy, they could expend the center core, maybe just recover the side cores. But there is still a use for expendable rockets at this stage. Obviously, we want to try to reuse everything that we could, but expendable rockets still have their advantages when it comes to getting things to a particular orbit. It comes at a cost. That's the big downside, but they still potentially have a place. For now. Do you think they will put a camera in the rocket? Yes, there are many cameras in the rockets, in this rocket, particularly for engineering purposes. Whether they show them to us or not, I'm going to go with probably not. They don't typically show us those engineering cameras. So there are cameras there that are for engineering purposes, but I don't think they're going to show those to us today. Are they launching or not today? We're waiting to find out. We don't know for sure. Tori, will we be able to see the astronauts in the shuttle during launch? Well, we don't have a shuttle. We do have a capsule, the Orion capsule. There are no astronauts in this capsule, but we do have 3 test dummies. We have a full test dummy called, I really need to look up his, it's like Mannequin Campos, I think is what his name is. Mannequin, or Moonikin, not Mannequin, Moonikin Campos. Is that his name? Did I get that right? Moonikin Campos. Yeah, I got it right. Is the full test dummy, the anthropomorphic test device it's in a full spacesuit. It's a full body test dummy that has tons of sensors on it to measure exactly what a human would experience inside a spacesuit launching on the Orion capsule. So that is on board. And then they also have 2 female torso test dummies, just the torso. And yes, they are female torsos, specifically because they are measuring radiation effects on human tissue, and radiation can affect female astronauts more than it affects male astronauts, because females have more organs that are susceptible to radiation. And so the torsos are specifically designed as female torsos to replicate the female tissue and anatomy, right down to interior organs and things like that, so that they can measure radiation exposure, how much radiation they're exposed to in the capsule. They have one that is just a standalone torso, and they have one torso that has a radiation protection vest around it to try to see the difference between the two. So, and remember, again, for all anybody that's on the conspiracy train that thinks that we didn't go to the moon in the past because of radiation. We did, but this is a much longer mission than the Apollo missions were, right? So the Apollo missions were only 8 to 12 days. This is going to be up for 43 days. much longer mission, going to be long exposed to radiation for a much longer time. We're trying to get astronauts that can spend time on the moon for a longer period of time. So these are much longer missions. And in the past, our method was just to kind of go through the thinnest portions of the Van Allen belts and go really fast and kind of just cross our fingers and be like, well, we'll go through this section. We'll just go fast and we'll close our eyes and say, here we go. Yeah, they didn't really get. I mean, they had dosimeters on board to measure how much radiation the astronauts experienced during the Apollo missions, and it really wasn't that much, to be honest. So that information is public information. I don't have it up right now, but it's really really didn't get that much radiation on the Apollo capsules, right? They were traveling really fast through the radiation belts. They went through the thinnest parts. They didn't spend a ton of time in space, and they came back. So but this is gonna be a longer mission, and now we don't necessarily. It's not necessarily good practice to go like, well, you're gonna get exposed to radiation, but it's probably not a big deal, which is kind of what our approach was in the Apollo program. Now if we have ways, like with the radiation protective vest, that we could eliminate radiation exposure or at least limit it, why not do that? Right? So there's always a better way to do it. So anyways. All right, let's see what else we missed here.
It's 8 a.m. Eastern Time here at Launch Complex 39B at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. We are currently holding at T-minus 40 minutes. It's an unplanned hold while the launch team works on an issue with engine number 3 in the core stage.
All right, so
we're standing by for a go-forward plan from the cryo team.
Okay, so rumor
we're still discussing that. Launch director is on standby.
So right now there is a rumor that is circulating amongst the media community that we may possibly be
began taking at 1:14 a.m. Eastern Time. Launch team getting both of the core stage tanks to 100%. Began tanking the upper stage. Once they started an engine bleed, they found that one of the engines didn't get the high accuracy temperature that they were looking for, and that is a constraint to launch. This is something they wanted to test during wet dress 4, but were unable to because they had a leak develop in the quick disconnect line that carries the engine bleed off of the engines and out to a flare stack. So this was the first opportunity for this team to see this live in action. It's a particularly tricky issue even going in to get that temperature dialed in, according to engineers.
Okay, so yeah, just to clear it up, so we're holding because of that engine number 3. They can't get it down to the proper temperature. There is a rumor.
So we are standing by.
There is currently a rumor in the media community that apparently...
Listening to the launch team, the launch director consulting with some of the members on our team. Still waiting for the cryo team to report out. We'll have that as soon as it's ready. This is Artemis Launch Control.
Okay, so yeah, there does appear to be a rumor that is spreading in the media community that we may be scrubbed for today. We have not gotten an official indication of that, so we're going to leave the countdown indicated as hold. But it does appear that there are rumors, unconfirmed rumors, that we are scrubbed for today. According to multiple media sources that I'm following, they say that they report that a few VIP guests have been informed that we may be scrubbing for today. So I'm kind of expecting, based on that information, that we may get an official announcement of a scrub here in the next few minutes. If that's the case, then we do have there. Well, I guess it depends on. It depends on how quickly they can resolve the issue. Let's see. So our next, what is our next available window? I actually don't know that off the top of my head. Who knows? I know there's another. Who knows what the backup launch window is? I don't know it off the top of my head. Let's see. I think I got it here. Yeah, so today, I think the next launch window is September 2nd. There it is. Yep. Thank you. Everybody just sent it. Thank you. I see Tyler Matson sent it over. Thank you very much. Yeah, so it looks like September 2nd would be the next launch window, and then September 5th after that. So the September 2nd one would be a 12:48 p.m. Eastern Time 2-hour launch window. It would result in a 39-day mission, so slightly less. So that's 12:48 Eastern. That'd be, 16:48 UTC on September 2nd. September 5th, which is a week from today, would be a 5:12 p.m. Eastern 90-minute launch window, so a slightly shorter launch window. But that would result in a 42-day mission. So back to this roughly the same mission timeline that we have for today. So I guess that's kind of what we're possibly expecting. We're waiting for official confirmation, but just to recap, we're in a planned hold. Not an unplanned hold, excuse me. We're in an unplanned hold due to engine number 3 on the core stage. That's one of the RS-25 space shuttle engines that is being repurposed for SLS. So it was previously flown on the space shuttle. So it is being reused today. It will not be reused after flight because it will be destroyed. But one of the engines, engine number 3 specifically, is not getting down to the proper temperature. Right? So the engines have to be cooled in preparation for launch, so they can throw super cooled liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen into those engines and not shock the system, right? They have to cool those down. The engine number 3 is not getting down to the appropriate temperature. They've been working on that all morning. They tried a couple different things to try to resolve that. We had an unplanned hold start. That's going on like 40 minutes ago now, so we've been holding for about 40 minutes. And then we've been waiting for an update on a plan to move forward. But yeah, at this point, we have no official indication, but there are rumors in the media community that we are scrubbing for today. According to multiple media sources that I am following, they have told a few NASA VIPs that the mission is going to scrub for today, but they have not said that publicly. So that is an unconfirmed rumor, but unfortunately, I place very high confidence in that because I have seen it from multiple sources, multiple trusted sources. And as Alex Ziggyful says, we'd rather scrub and make sure everything's right. We don't want anything to go wrong. I mean, if something went wrong, that would mean extremely long delays to the overall Artemis program, and we don't want that. We can take a delay if it delays us, 4 days. If we have to wait 4 days for the launch, but that means the Artemis program stays on track, that's much better than having something go wrong and then have us be delayed years for investigations and stuff like that. So Is it officially aborted? No, it is not official. We have unconfirmed rumors that we are scrubbing for today, but those are unconfirmed, although I place high confidence in those rumors because they are coming from multiple trusted sources. So we're waiting to find out. What length of hold is allowed? So in theory, we could hold for up to 2 hours. We've been holding for about 40 minutes now, but we don't know. This is an unplanned hold, so there's no scheduled time when they're going to come out of this hold. We're just waiting for an update. Is this the launch for today? Well, yeah, maybe for today, but it sounds like we're going to be off for today, but we'll see. I saw a couple people in the chat talking, like saying that Elon was laughing or something like that. Remember, like, Elon has a vested interest in this succeeding, right? The Starship, NASA is actually giving funding to SpaceX. A lot of people, I don't know, for some reason there's this this idea that, like, NASA and SpaceX are in competition and one can only succeed if the other fails, which it doesn't make any sense, right? So SpaceX is successful largely in part because of funding that NASA has given them, right? So SpaceX has to get funding from somewhere. I mean, sure, they get funding from private launches and things like that, but NASA is funding SpaceX through Crew Dragon launches, and they also have development funds that they are sending to SpaceX for Starship because they want SpaceX to develop the Starship lunar lander for them. So if for some reason, let's say NASA cancels the Artemis program, which it sounds like some of these insinuations I've seen in the chat is that that SpaceX will succeed if NASA cancels the Artemis program. I mean, if NASA cancels the Artemis program, guess what else they cancel? The funding for the Starship lunar lander, right? If there's no Artemis program, NASA doesn't need a lunar lander anymore. So they would potentially cancel that, right? Maybe they could invest in it if they transition and say that they want to use exclusively Starship, but I don't see that happening anytime soon, especially now that, I mean, SLS is on the pad preparing to launch. I mean, I think we're gonna see it continue on at least until Starship is a proven platform to send astronauts to the moon itself. So, all right, I still have no official word. I'm confirming that it's unconfirmed because I see another one of my news sources again says that they're again hearing that NASA VIPs are being told that it's been scrubbed, but there has still not been any official word. So I'm confirming that it is still unconfirmed. So yeah, we're just waiting now for details. We have been holding we're getting close to 50 minutes now due to this engine number 3 issue. So we are just awaiting word to see what happens next. Let's see. Hey, KDB, thanks for the super chat. Says, even if it's a scrub, hanging out again is nice. Well, thanks for being here, KDB. I really appreciate that. Yeah, we're having a great time this morning. It's fun to still hang out and do that. And we could do this again on Friday if we have to wait until Friday. Martin says Among Us. I'm not sure what that's all about. He wants me to play Among Us or something. If JMB Gator over on Twitch said if they postpone the launch window to later in the week or next, let's hope there's no tropical weather systems out there that can threaten it. I'm not aware of any at the moment, but I'll be honest, I haven't really looked at the future because I was really hoping that we would launch today. Although I was really hoping we would launch today, but I would not be surprised if there's a scrub. Remember, this is the most powerful rocket that the U.S. has ever launched, and this is the first attempt at it. The chances of everything going right is... yeah, it's relatively low, right? There's a million things that can go wrong and only one way that it can go right. And so if for it to scrub, it's not really that surprising or that major. I don't see that as a major issue. Sure, it's a big letdown, it's a big disappointment, but so we wait until Friday. All right, big deal. But let's wait for the official word. Again, these are still unconfirmed rumors that are just circulating in the media community here from a few of my trusted sources. So I place high confidence in the fact that, or in the rumor that we may be scrubbed, but we just have not gotten official word yet, so. Let's see. Ginger's Ranch Show says, hey, Tori, great to see you. Missed your broadcast. Have you done much flying and also worked with your Kerbal game? I haven't done much Kerbal, but I have done lots of actual flying in my real airplane. That has actually been a lot of what I've been doing outside of here is flying my airplane. I just got my instrument rating I don't know, about 3 weeks ago or so. I was doing a lot of training to get my instrument rating. I did get my instrument rating at the beginning of August, so done with that. And now I'm working on getting my commercial pilot's license. So that's my next adventure. So yeah, still doing a lot of flying. Let's see. R&R Gaming. Wonder if aliens on the moon are sweating and waiting to see if we scrub for the day. Maybe, I guess. Did we send them a memo that we were coming? Did they publish the memo to the aliens that will be landing there, or were we just trying to sneak up on them? Let's see. Tori, instrument rating ain't that hard. Yeah, the instrument rating that was a bit of a challenge. That there's a lot to know with your instrument rating, but I had a lot of fun with that. I think Apollo told the NASA team to hold for a bit. Didn't know you were a pilot. Congratulations on your IFR. CPL is way easier and will be a walk in the park. I'm hoping so. I feel like my brain is still fried from studying for the IFR, the instrument rating stuff. So I'm still trying to recover from doing all that. But yeah, working on the commercial certificate now. Let's see. Owen Schnell, thanks for the super chat, says, today is my dad's birthday, and he was alive for Apollo. I hope it launches today. Well, happy birthday to Owen's dad. And that's pretty awesome that I'm hoping he maybe saw some of the Apollo launches. Unfortunately, I think we're going to be scrubbing for today, according to rumors. Again, just unconfirmed rumors, but we are waiting to get the official word. When exactly is liftoff? I can't give you an answer for that because we are in an unplanned hold right now. So the launch window is opening in about 15 minutes is when the launch window opens. And it is a 2-hour launch window. But at the moment, we are holding in the count because engine number 3...
This is Artemis Launch Control.
Let's see if we get an update.
40 minutes and holding. I just spoke with Launch Director Charlie Blackwell-Thompson, who said that her team is still working on a troubleshooting plan for engine number 3 that had the issue with the engine bleed. She's still waiting for more information about that. Engineers are still discussing it and going over some modeling and data. And once they have that ready, they're going to come back to her and have a discussion. And so she says that she's awaiting that. And we are standing by. Again, at T-minus 40 minutes, we'll have more information. when we get it.
We'll have more information when we get it. So, yeah, we're still pretty much in the same holding pattern, right? So the team is trying to come up with a plan to determine if they're going to move forward. Again, we have unconfirmed rumors from the media community that they have reportedly told some NASA VIPs that we will be scrubbing today. But those are unconfirmed rumors. They have not said anything publicly about a scrub of any sort, but we have been in this unplanned hold now for almost exactly an hour. So we've been holding for about an hour, and that's due to engine number 3. Engine number 3 is not dropping to the correct temperature like the other 3 engines are. There are 4 engines on the core stage of the SLS rocket. That's at the bottom of that big orange stack there. There are 4 RS-25 engines. The RS-25 engines are the same engines that were on the back of the space shuttle. Like literally the same engines. They are reusing these from the space shuttle program, right? So they have a stock of RS-25 engines that they are going to reuse for SLS. And so yeah, these are repurposed space shuttle engines that are now on the bottom of the SLS rocket. One of them, engine number 3 specifically, is not playing nicely today. So it is not getting down to temperature. They've been discussing. They said they needed 10 minutes. That was an hour ago. They're discussing what they're going to do about it. I would say, again, we have unconfirmed media rumors that we're scrubbing for today. Certainly the length of this hold is not a great indication that we're going to launch. But on the other hand, it's the fact that they didn't come right out and say that they're scrubbing is slightly encouraging. But I do place a lot of confidence in those unconfirmed media rumors because they came from a couple very trusted sources. Let me see if we have any other updates here. So we just heard from the public relations person that the launch director, Charlie Blackwell Thompson, says that they're still discussing the Artemis-1 hardware issues. They're going to go over some modeling data. There's no new launch time. Very good chance of scrub today. Also, as of 2 minutes ago, the cumulus cloud rule is now red at Kennedy Space Center. There's a rain shower approaching the Artemis-1 launch pad. So that would be, I mean, we've also got the weather concerns, which we kind of knew. So here's our weather for today. We did kind of know, let's go to radar. So we've got some storms that are in the area, and according to the 45th Space Wing, we did know that as we get later in the launch window, the probability of violating launch constraints goes up. So we have, we start the window with a 20% chance of violation, which means 80% chance of go conditions. As we get later in the window, we transition into 40% chance of violation, meaning 60% chance of go conditions. And those primary concerns were the cumulus cloud rule, which is currently red, just switched to a red condition as of a few minutes ago. We've got surface electric fields rule and flight through precipitations rule. So those 3 things, if any of them comes up as a violation, we can't launch. Some of them are not... Some of them can be cleared quickly, right? Like flight through precipitation, cumulus cloud rule. All we got to do is not fly through a cumulus cloud, not fly through precipitation. Those are pretty good. Those can clear pretty quickly. The surface electric fields rule, that generally has like a 30-minute buffer window. You have to be clear conditions for at least 30 minutes. So if it goes to green conditions, it has to stay green for at least 30 minutes in order to be able to launch. And really what we're looking out for is we don't want to have rocket-induced lightning, right? That's something that we kind of unfortunately discovered in the Apollo 12 launch. Apollo 12 launched through There was some storm clouds overhead. There was not lightning occurring at the time, but they launched Apollo 12 through some thick cumulus clouds, and it caused rocket-induced lightning, where basically lightning then had an easy path through the exhaust trail of the rocket to basically creates its own lightning. It acts as a trigger for lightning. So that's why we have those conditions there. We don't want to have rocket-induced lightning. I did actually make a video about that, about the Apollo 12 mission. So if you want to see more about that, you can check out that video on my channel here. Yeah, that's so right now the cumulus cloud rule is red as well. So things are stacking up against us in the wrong direction, unfortunately. Again, we have unconfirmed rumors that it may be scrubbed, but we're waiting for something official from NASA. When is launch? Well, we don't know because we're in an unplanned hold. We don't know. The countdown is stopped. We have no indication of what our new launch time will be at this time. Andrea Davis, I had no idea rocket-induced lightning was a thing. It is a thing. You should check out my Apollo 12 video about that. And that is why we don't fly through precipitation, we don't fly through cumulus clouds, and we don't fly when the surface electric fields are elevated, because you can get rocket-induced lightning. Obviously, they're not going to launch when there's actual lightning, but in addition to actual lightning, they're measuring those other conditions because they don't want to induce lightning when they launch the rocket. They need to go out there and hit it with a hammer. I don't know if that's the solution, but I guess that's an idea. We'll pin that on the board, and we'll take other ideas. But I'm not sure that's the one we're gonna go with. But thanks for contributing. We'll pin it on the board. Get on with it already. Make it happen. Yeah, we don't want to rush it. I mean, I know everybody's excited, but we want to go when the rocket is ready. Is this an uncrewed mission? Yes, this is uncrewed. This is the first. This is Artemis I. It is uncrewed. There are 3 test dummies on board. 1 full test dummy, 2 torsos. It will be flying in the Orion capsule, so it is occupied with anthropomorphic test devices. Test dummies. There are 3 of them. 1 full and 2 torsos. How much is the scrub going to cost us? And surprisingly, actually, the scrub the scrub itself is not really that much, right? They go through, I mean, in the grand, I say that much, like, it's not like I have this kind of money, but in the grand scheme of things, right, the launch, each launch is expected to cost about $4.1 billion. It's expensive. A scrub adds approximately, maybe 250 to 500, I want to say like $1,000. Is that right? I think that's the right number. I don't know. It's mainly just the fuel that is the scrub concern. So a lot of the fuel can be recovered. They do lose a lot of it. But it's not like, I mean, a delay in the program is a much bigger cost implication, right? If you launched and something went wrong and now we got to wait 2 years to try it again, like, you're talking another $4 billion to do another mission. Like, that's a huge implication compared to a scrub. A scrub is nothing compared to having to redo this launch because something went wrong. David Hodges, thanks for the super chat, says, need to change the rubber band, guys. I don't know what that means, but thank you, David. I appreciate that. I'm trying to see if I can figure out the reference. Fred Flintstone. Hey, Fred Flintstone joined in the chat. Tori, could NASA reuse the LEMs? I'm assuming you're talking about the old, like, Apollo LEMs, like the lunar excursion modules. No, they're not. They're not going to reuse those. NASA's plan for Artemis III to actually land humans on the moon is using the Lunar Starship. That is not ready yet, but that is what their plan is, and those will be reusable. So I guess yes, in that sense. No, they're not going to reuse the old LEMs from the 60s and 70s. That's not happening, but... Why can't they say it? Just launch. I know, everybody's excited. Everybody wants to launch, but we want to... Oh, there you go. They said... Ty Stone says the rubber band is the O-ring. I gotcha. So it's a reference. They need to change the rubber band. It's a reference to the O-rings from the Space Shuttle Challenger issues. Nandon wants to know, is the SLS reusable? It is not, unfortunately. It is an expendable rocket. We had a little discussion on this earlier in the broadcast here today. Expendable rockets, although much more expensive, they do still have a place. I mean, an expendable rocket can generally put more payload into orbit or go further in orbit, which, when you're trying to go to the moon, is kind of a benefit. So yeah, this is expendable. It is not reusable, unfortunately. I mean, the Orion capsule may possibly be reusable, but the actual SLS rocket itself, the ICPS, which is the interstage there, it's not reusable. Will Artemis II land on the moon? No, Artemis II will not land. Artemis III, it will be our first lunar landing. What is the percentage chance of launch today? I'm going to put it very low, unfortunately. There, as I've mentioned a couple times, we have unconfirmed media rumors that we are scrubbing for today. Reportedly, from some of my trusted sources, they have told some VIPs that they're scrubbing for today, but they have not said anything publicly. So we're awaiting some sort of public notification about the condition. Let's see. Let me see if I got an update on that status. I don't think so. Yeah, the last we've heard is engineers are looking at options to gather as much data as possible, which sounds a whole lot like a scrub. So that's unfortunate. The fact that the weather is red, the cumulus cloud rule is currently violating conditions, that's not really a major issue, because we've got plenty of time to clear that. But the main reason that we are holding right now is due to engine number 3. Engine number 3, they can't get it down to temperature. They're gonna, as Wild West Dan here said, one of our moderators, like, they are going to do everything they can to not cancel it. They want to launch the rocket, but they will only launch the rocket if everything is good, right? I've said it a million times today. There are a million ways things can go wrong and only one way that they can go right. And they need to make sure, before they push the go button, they need to make sure that everything is right. So, plenty of opportunity, unfortunately, for scrubs. So right now we are holding because of engine number 3. They can't get engine number 3 down to temperature. So they tried a couple of tricks earlier in the day. They were shutting some valves off. They were trying to do all their venting through engine number 3, trying to accelerate the ability for that engine to drop in temperature. So they were trying to reroute some of the venting to go through engine number 3. They just can't get it to get down to the same temperature as the other 3 engines, and that's a problem, right? So we have supercooled liquid oxygen and liquid helium in the rocket. It's very, very cold. You can't just throw that into the engine without getting it cooled down. It causes stress fractures and all kinds of problems. Things will break if you try to shove super cold liquid. It's like negative 300 degrees. You try to shove that into an engine that's ambient temperature. that's a problem. So they are going to they've been troubleshooting this now for over an hour and 10 minutes. About they put us into a hold an hour and 10 minutes ago, and we are now awaiting details. But again, they're unconfirmed media rumors that we are scrubbing for today. We did have, just to clarify, there was a reported intertank flange crack that they were investigating. They did report that they investigated that, and it is not a crack in the vehicle.
This is Artemis Launch
vehicle
Control
itself.
With an update. Launch Director Charlie Blackwell-Thompson has called a scrub for
There we
today.
go. Scrub for
Again,
today.
Launch Director Charlie Blackwell-Thompson has called a scrub of the attempt of launch of Artemis I and the Space Launch System with the Orion spacecraft. The issue that came up was an engine bleed that couldn't be remedied, but the rocket is currently in a stable configuration. It was mostly tanked, but not completely tanked. Engineers are now working on a plan to continue gathering data about this particular engine and the bleed that didn't work out. The rocket, the hydrogen bleed rather, was a goal of the previous wet dress rehearsal that didn't happen due to a hydrogen leak. So engineers are focused on gathering as much data as they can at this time. So they have not gone to draining the rocket just yet. They're going to keep it in its current configuration and gather that data. To summarize, we held at T-minus 40 minutes and counting after the team was unable to get past engine bleed that didn't show the right temperature once they got into the engine bleed test. And ultimately, the launch director has called a scrub for the day. The earliest opportunity, depending on what happens with this engine bleed, would be September 2nd. That is available to the launch team. However, we will await a determination of what the plan is to go forward to remedy the engine bleed and then go from there. Again, an availability to launch, the next availability to launch is 12:48 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, September 2nd. But we must wait to see what shakes out from their test data they're currently gathering now, and the decision that's made by the launch team about where to go from here. We appreciate you watching NASA TV and our coverage of the Artemis I launch attempt. This is Gerald Nail with NASA Communications signing off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Thank you.
All right, so there we are. We've got the official word of the scrub here for today. I guess before everybody jumps out, while you're still here, I'd ask you just, if you had some fun chatting with us today, maybe click the like button on the video. It does help out the channel quite a bit. Consider subscribing to Overlook Horizon here. We're a nonprofit in the U.S. And if you want to join our Discord community to chat after hours or get ready for the next launch, consider joining our Discord. Going to overlookhorizon.com/Discord. And Wild West Dan just dropped a Discord link in the chat on YouTube, so you can check out the link directly there. Oh, there goes the end of our broadcast. So yeah, that's my spiel there. So consider joining our Discord. We can chat after hours, and you can join what we lovingly call Space Lobster Nation here. And become part of our community. So yeah, I guess we'll chat for a minute here. We'll just wrap up. But I did, before everybody exits, because I know it's going to be a mass rush for the door, just wanted to say, like, hey, consider click that like button or subscribe or join our Discord and hang out with us again, because we'll be doing this again. But I would really appreciate that. Anyways, so yeah, we finally got the official word on a scrub for today. It is disappointing, but we want everything to go right. We want to make sure that everything is good to go before we launch this vehicle. They've been developing it for so long that the last thing we want is something to go wrong and then have to wait and delay it for years. So that is not what we want whatsoever. So it sounds like that engine number 3 issue they still could not resolve. And again, the next launch opportunity is going to be September 2nd at 12:48 Eastern time in the afternoon. That's 16:48 UTC on September 2nd. So we'll cover that again. And that's the first available opportunity. Depending on what they have with this, what they have to do to resolve this issue, they could go out to the next opportunity, which is September 5th. At 5 o'clock, I think 5:21 p.m. Eastern time in the evening. So that would be, what's that, 21 UTC? I think I did that math correctly. On a week from now, that's their second opportunity. And then, of course, there's more opportunities after that. But those are the next 2 available opportunities. It's really going to depend on what happens, what they have to do with to troubleshoot this engine issue. To whether or not they're going to be able to go Friday. The nice thing is they do have a couple days to kind of sort this out and see if they can resolve it. So I hope you come back and we'll check it out again there. Heat Shield, thanks for the super chat. Heat Shield just said rock. I don't know what that means, but all right. Thank you, Heat Shield. Thanks for the support. What determines the next launch window? So yeah, remember we're trying to go to the moon and back. Right, so we've got kind of our, let's see, we can go to this view here for a second. This is our mission timeline and what we're trying to do. So we have to make sure that the Earth's rotation is lined up, that the moon is ready, that we can hit the orbital parameters within our fuel constraints and get back to the Earth and our landing spot. So a lot of orbital mechanics coming into play here. Everything's got to line up. The Earth, the moon, the rotation of the Earth, everything's got to line up correctly. We need to make sure that we're in the correct plane, right? So as the Earth rotates, we want to make sure that when we launch, we're in the correct plane to get to the moon. So yeah, lots of variables there, and that puts our next opportunity at what is that? Friday, September 2nd, right? That's this Friday. Yep. So this Friday. So that's what our plan is right now. So unfortunately, we are scrubbed for today. Let's see. It is, yeah, there's no people on board, so it is an uncrewed mission today. How will they empty the tanks? So yeah, the umbilicals do have the ability to drain the tanks. Obviously, they're not going to recover everything that was loaded in there. Some of the stuff has been vented off, but they'll drain the tanks and try to recover as much as they can. But yeah, we're not launching today. Oh, Heat Shield says you know what K-Rock means. Cap. You didn't put K-Rock, you just said rock. It was from Heat Shield. I know K-Rock is. That's the airport in Rochester. Fly there all the time. Will the quality of the fuel be compromised? No, that's not a concern. All the data that they have from the first moon landing, all this should be a breeze. Yeah, it's not so much, they definitely have data, right? That helps quite a bit, but this is a new vehicle, right? So the issue that we had today is on potentially like a bleed valve or something like that. Like we could have all the knowledge in the world. If we built a bleed valve that is not opening, that knowledge doesn't help us. So yeah, things that are mechanical still go wrong. We still haven't figured out a way to make mechanical things not break 100% of the time. I mean, obviously, we try to manufacture those things to do the best we can. We build in redundancy. But at some point, you got to balance redundancy with cost and weight. And, you know, there are some things that, I don't know, do you really need an extra valve in there? Or is it better to just fix the valve and scrub for a couple of days? Like, you know, it could cost, it'd be an extra $1 million to put in another valve in this. Or if the valve breaks, we just scrub for 3 days and launch 3 or 4 days later. And those are the kind of it's easy to kind of armchair engineer the whole thing and just say, you know, well, they should put another valve in. But, you know, there's cost implications to that. There's design implications, like where are you going to put it? Where are you going to mount it? How's it going to fit into the vehicle? How much does it weigh? How much does it cost? Do we have to add more testing for it? Do we need more documentation? There's so many considerations. Like sometimes the best part is no part, right? It's one less thing to go wrong. But of course, if you don't have that part, if something does go wrong, maybe you don't have the redundancy and now you got to scrub. So yeah, there's a lot of decisions that you got to kind of make when those are kind of the engineering decisions you make. You weigh the risk and say, all right, what's the risk if this thing goes wrong? In this case, the risk is we scrub for 4 days. Is that really the end of the world? Not really. I mean, sure, it's frustrating and we want to see it launch, but it happens. What happened? When's the next attempt? So next attempt's going to be September 2nd. There was engine number 3. They could not get down to temperature, and they couldn't resolve it. Can't figure it out, and they're scrubbed for today. So, hey, I like your shirt. Where can I get one? I love this shirt. I don't know where I got it as a gift from my wife, so I have no idea where she got it from. I can't tell you where to get it, but I do love it. They had enough time to run every test. How could this be possible? Yeah, I mean, sure, you can test things and things still go wrong, right? So, I mean, your car manufacturer tests your vehicle before it leaves the plant, but I'm sure things on your car still break later on, right? That's like things are mechanical. They break, things go wrong, things get stuck. You got humidity that affects stuff. You got atmospheric conditions. The vehicle's got to move around. It's got to bump. It's got vibrations. It's got to be moved to the pad. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can go wrong during those processes. That's why we test. That's why we have a whole countdown test ahead of time, right? Every vehicle is tested before it goes to the pad. I mean, if we just assumed that all of our tests were correct, we could just get to launch and say, all right, fill it up, go. But we don't do that, right? We fill it up, we run a whole bunch of checks and tests on the vehicle. Like every launch vehicle does this. We run checks and tests, and that's because there's always things that can go wrong. Like if you're under the impression that nothing can go wrong on a launch vehicle, you're living in a fantasy world. Like I've said it a million times, there are a million things that can go wrong and only one way that it can go right. So, like I said, the vehicle's got to be taken out on the crawler, out to the launch pad. There's all kinds of vibrations that happen along the way. They try to dampen those as much as possible. They try to minimize movements, but it's moving. There are movements that are happening as it's going out to the launch pad. There's humidity. It's sitting outside in the atmosphere. There was a lightning strike this past weekend where there were 5 lightning strikes that hit the lightning protection system. Like that could potentially affect things. Luckily, they said it did not. They investigated that, but there were 5 lightning strikes that happened this weekend right on the lightning protection system. So there's all kinds of environmental problems and little things that can come up. That's why we test before we launch. Let's see, Kermit Face. Thanks for the super chat. I skipped school mid-test to watch this. Oh, bummer. Well, I don't know if I would have skipped a test, but yeah, unfortunately, scrubs are a thing in the spaceflight world, and if you're going to become a fan of spaceflight, you have to learn to, unfortunately, we all got to learn how to cope with scrubs. I mean, they're disappointing, but they are a thing. All right, well, I think we've pretty much covered everything, so we'll do this again for sure on September 2nd. We'll be back and do another attempt at this. And I'm assuming September 2nd. I guess don't take my word at that yet. We got to see what happens with this engine number 3 issue. Like, they could still change that and decide that they need more time. So September 2nd is just the first available opportunity that they could go again. So we don't know if September 2nd is the day yet. What time will it be? It would be a 12:48 p.m. Eastern time, right around midday Eastern time. That's 16:48 UTC on September 2nd. So let me borrow your Mooney. I don't have a Mooney. I fly a Piper Cherokee is my airplane. A lot of people think it's a Mooney. I guess it kind of looks like a Mooney, but it's not a Mooney. It's a Piper Cherokee. Piper Cherokee 180. That's the airplane I fly. Okay, what happened? Yeah, so engine number 3 would not get down to temperature. They could not resolve the issue, so they scrubbed for today. Is it still going to launch? No. It is scrubbed. Troy says, Tori, you're the best commentator that I've seen and heard. Excellent job, informative, knowledgeable. You're so nice. Thank you very much, Troy. I really appreciate that. When is the next launch after the September 2nd one? So after September 2nd, September 5th would be the second opportunity, and then I don't know after that. I don't think they published any more dates after that. So it's September 2nd, September 5th, and then we'll find out. Students are disappointed, but we'll be back for the next launch, says Sally. Well, I'm sorry, everybody, that we missed it. Of course, it's disappointing, but of course, this is better than having something go wrong, of course. So, yeah, all right. Well, I think I'm going to wrap up for today. What's the website to follow? Well, yeah, you just jump on our Discord. We got a lot of behind the scenes chat in our Discord channel. So if you want to chat with us in between launches, get some behind the scenes, and join the space community, become a follower, join our Discord. Sebi the Time Waster, one of our moderators, just dropped it into the chats there. Just look for the Nightbot link. You can click on that. That'll take you right to our Discord. And you can join our Discord. It's just like a little chat area. It's free. You can join it, hang out, and then we can chat in between launches and join our Space Lobster Nation community. All right. Well, it's a bummer. That's going to be it for me this morning. I appreciate everybody joining me here today. Of course, I always have fun with these things. We want to see the launch go off, but not today. It wasn't meant to be. So if you want to drop a follow or subscribe, maybe click the like button, that would certainly be appreciated. Join our Discord. We can chat some more about it later. If you are so inclined and want to support Overlook Horizon. Overlook Horizon is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. None of the money, your super chats, or anything like that, none of that comes to me. It all goes to Overlook Horizon. It is a nonprofit charitable organization in the United States. And if you want to support that, consider becoming a Patreon member. And you can support our nonprofit work and become part of our community. And that's it. That's all I have for today. So we're gonna wrap up. I was reading a couple more comments, but yeah, scrub for today, unfortunately. How can we find out when the launch will be on Friday? If it goes on Friday, it'll be 12:48 p.m. Eastern time, 16:48 UTC would be launch time. Or subscribe here, and I'll put on an event where you can set a reminder and join us again, and we'll do that again next time. So. All right, well, thanks everybody for joining. My name's Tori. This is Overlook Horizon. Always have fun with you guys. We'll be back for another attempt, hopefully on Friday, and we'll try again. All right, enjoy the rest of the day, everybody. Thanks for joining. Take care. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.